Hi, welcome. My name is Andrea Verbanek. I'm VP of People and Culture, and I've been with Exonify for 3.5 years. I'm happy to present a conversation on building a culture during a pandemic. And it's something I'm really passionate about. In my role, I've always been focused on building a culture that's truly a competitive advantage for us. So a couple things we get out of the way is that we know culture is not static. It is not a singular mission statement or a set of values that we've seen posted on a wall. But we do know that it entails with working with our leadership teams and employees to truly build a company they love working at. At Exonify, we've learned to constantly innovate and adapt, and adapting to the feedback that we've heard on what is working and what isn't. I know there remains a certain degree of uncertainty with the current pandemic, but companies could take this opportunity to embrace a forward-thinking approach to how they will maintain their organizational culture going forward. I'm going to walk through 6 principles we've learned based on working with our executive team and hearing from our employees, hearing our customer stories, and as well hearing what other HR teams are doing with their employees. So hopefully you can select the right combinations that, when applied together, create high employee engagement for you and your organization. In the current work climate, keeping your workforce motivated has never been more crucial and complicated. Our first principle, timing is everything. Be timely with what you focus on. Think of the audience. Be empathetic to what they're actually experiencing right now. And how we apply this principle is by using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've always had a culture of helping people first, and when the pandemic was first declared, we took our guide from Maslow's hierarchy of needs for our people and culture offerings. So understanding this hierarchy helped us to determine whether the needs of our employees are met in our workplace and how we could better support them. And an important step to realize is these are building blocks. You can't start with cultural connectiveness, which is belonging, without first focusing on the foundational needs such as physiological well-being, family safety, and family support. I'm going to walk through the 5 levels of this hierarchy and talk through how we applied this at Exonify. So with the first level, physiological, to help ensure employees felt a sense of security in their basic needs, things like keeping their job to pay their mortgage, feed their family, communication about where we stood as a company, our no layoff approach was key to our communication in the first few weeks of the pandemic. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later on in the presentation. Safety, worrying about high-risk family members, feeling safe at work, being mentally healthy. These are challenges many people and culture teams continue to face. At Exonify, we were fortunate to be able to support customers from home. We also updated our sick policy, offered ergonomic support, and created physical well-being groups. We also worked on education through the Exonify platform. We offered training on how to safely use PPE, such as wearing masks, how to work in the office now that our office is open. We offered ergonomic setup for a home office. These are just a few of the trainings that we released to our employees during the past few months. Belonging. We didn't work on this in week 1 or even week 2. We had to tend to the first few items first, as just previously mentioned. And so when it comes to employee belonging, many were feeling a sense of mourning or loss of their connection during this period. And this could be to the coworkers they're used to seeing daily, old routines, social norms, and even vacation plans that they may have had. And that's when we focused on connectiveness that went beyond just their team. We also tackled how to engage with others while balancing Zoom fatigue, being available for family, and rapidly changing work priorities. With esteem, this relates to positive self-image, respect, and recognition. So it was very important during this time. We still innovated in terms of how we could extend recognition. We had recognition programs in place prior to that were very tangible, whether it was through cards or notes, or what we have are called a poker chip program, where the chip itself is highlighted of one of our three values of be bold, collaborate, or get it done. This is very much in line with our culture. And so we had to shift our recognition to a virtual and online setting. So we now use e-cards in the form of our values, and so that employees and leaders could still continue on with sending out cards in relation to values being demonstrated, or in cards in terms of exoniversaries or birth dates. The top layer of the pyramid, self-actualization, these relates to achievement issues in the workplace. Achievement could be meaning autonomy or a challenging work, or being recognized as a subject matter expert in their job. And so development is still an important component of this model that you can still consider during this period of time. And I'll speak to employee development later on in the presentation. So in summary, what worked for Exonify was to over-communicate about the health of our business. We've always had a remarkable culture of transparency where we share the good and the challenges with our employees. We offered an extended flexibility to care for families, so that included flexing your work schedule if you needed to be away for parenting during different periods during the day. Ergonomic support. We offered mental health training for leaders as well, highlighted the mental health services that were available for all employees, and recognition was an important component of our offering, as I previously mentioned. Our second principle, cookie cutting is for baking, not culture. So many companies share what they're doing with regards to employee engagement, and that's great. Let it spark new ideas for your team, but don't copycat unless it's truly perfect for your culture. We've seen these headlines, and we've seen them in social media or any other press, and it may be tempting to do what others are doing. However, every company has its unique circumstances surrounding it. So my reminder is, yes, it's okay to know what's going on externally. Learn from what they are doing, or take elements of it but make it your own, authentic to your culture. Your role in people and culture is to deliver on what makes sense for your company employees, but what also works for your organization and culture. So my takeaway is customize and be authentic to what it means for your culture. Principle number 3, your blank slate has arrived. So what do I mean by this? Imagine, what did you used to dream of trying in your role at work? Something that you knew would move the business forward but couldn't make it fit within the current systems or practices. So now, somewhere in between keeping customers important and employee safety and continuing to drive the bottom line, take a moment to unbox the blank slate that has shown up on your doorstep. And hearing from our customers, we got stories that we knew they got really creative. And I will share some examples later on in the presentation. So anywhere from fun cameos, turning brand ambassadors into speakers. These were new ways of engaging their employees, which they previously had not thought of pre-COVID. For Exonify, we felt freed by no longer being restricted by our physical space. For example, company-wide meeting in 20 minutes? No problem. 50 leaders in a training session with 3 breakouts in 1 hour and an all-group feedback sharing in between, we said, bring it on. And I think we often wait until we have the strategy or approach before getting started. And what I recommend is just begin experimenting with a whole bunch of ideas. We actually enjoy brainstorming in people and culture. And we have a tagline that's, there are no bad ideas in brainstorming. We see what works we listen to feedback, and then we refine from there. And so this is your opportunity to innovate. So here's an example of a challenge we needed to solve. It was how to stay connected despite our physical distance. We were used to connecting daily in our physical space, and we were super intentional to carve out non-work time for this. This came from the top with our CEO, Carol Lehman, often offering to book a virtual cocktail or coffee chat with her mentioning, catch up, work or personal, doesn't matter to me. I'd love to connect, send me a calendar invite. And this is something she did regularly at the close of our employee town hall meetings on a company or a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. But we needed to solve for those organic kitchen chats we were missing, where you'd meet a new person, discover something unique about them, or perhaps a common interest. And that's when we built the Just Before Lunch show with JD. Every week, Exonifiers had the opportunity to highlight a little more about themselves based on the show topic. So we've had Exonifiers act out their favorite movie, share tips about their passions, including their pets or getting silly. And in this, what's on the screen here is from our Halloween show with JD all dressed up in a rabbit costume. We did this show live every week because the chat and Google Meet throughout the show enables those real-time connections. And it was really great to see the banter and the sharing through this Google chat, and it sparked new conversations post-show where employees were able to reconnect on what they've learned about each other. And let's face it, mishaps and bloopers just aren't captured the same way not live. So I'd love to share a few highlights from our show. Season 1 consisted of 20 weeks, so we had 20 shows. And I'm just going to share with you a few highlights from these.
Happy Thursday, Exonify, and welcome to Just Before Lunch. I'm your host, JD, and over the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk about you, the Exonifam, and help you get to know your peers just a little bit better, despite our current physical distance. Rob, make it Canadian.
Howdy, folks. How we doing, hey? Well, it's kind of funny I was on the show because it's a little bit of a running joke on the CS team that I might be the most Canadian person, at least in the KW region. I spent 3 years of my life working at that hockey rink as the Zamboni driver. True story. I drove the Zamboni. I could fly to any ice surface in the country, and you know what? I'm pretty good at it.
So, first joke is I might have a dad bod, but I've got a 6-pack of TP at home. The coronavirus might have shut down everything, but I'm still open for business. You can't spell quarantine without URAQT. Wait, my bad. That's my Tinder pickup line. Sorry.
Liam, how are you, Liam?
Right. Thanks, JD. Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
I don't know what part of the UK you're from, Liam, but sure, we'll make this work. Liam, where are you from?
I now live in Cornwall, the place you go on holiday in the UK for surfing and beaches, mainly.
This show has a little bit for everyone. Comedy, romance,
Ooh la la.
action,
Ooh.
betrayal,
Yes.
adventure, drama,
Ooh.
and friendship.
Aw.
All wrapped into one.
I'd actually forgotten we were supposed to dress up. This is usually what I wear on Thursdays. So.
Show some really embarrassing pictures here. So if you look at the middle picture there, you can take a simple push-up and you elevate your feet. It becomes more difficult. And then you elevate your feet on an unstable surface. It's even more difficult. And then you decide to work one limb at a time versus two, and it's even more difficult, and on and on and on.
what we're going to do here is a bit of a potato unveil. So I've got some what I think are ready to harvest potatoes. So in the chat, I want you to take a guess as to how many potatoes this container behind me has within it. And just to give you a little hint, there's 3 seed potatoes within this. So try to guess as to which one, how many we've got here. So we're going to get started.
It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did.
Just a second. I need a drink here once. Just. Refreshing. Thank you. Proceed. Oh, you cut off my hand.
It's getting quiet. Just a few more minutes. It'll take them a while to get the boats organized. I don't know about you, but I intend to write a strongly worded letter to the White Star Line about all of this.
I love you, Jack.
Don't you do that. Don't say your goodbyes.
I'm so cold.
Listen, Rose. You're gonna get out of here. You're gonna go on and make lots of babies. You're gonna watch them grow. You're gonna die an old lady, warm in her bed. But not here. Not this night. Not like this. Do you understand me?
But we're not done. We have one more contestant to introduce. Everyone say hello to Carol Lehman. Carol, tell us about your costume. I have no idea what's happening, but it's amazing.
It's the Just Before Lunch show.
So I hope you love those. I get a laugh every time I look at some of the key highlights from the past season. Principle number 4, keep the lines open. Two-way communication is the best way to build culture, pandemic or not. No argument there. In a non-pandemic climate, communication was important to build engagement and really have employees understand the why behind their work and how it connects to other pieces in the business. In a pandemic, communication becomes key to providing physiological and safety needs as well, something that some of us may have taken for granted prior to COVID. A few practices that we heard from our customers, were creating video clips and releasing them company-wide so that employees can watch them on their own time. Or other customers were adding articles, information, and training to give employees the information they needed. And that all refers to the information sharing side of communication. But there are 2 sides to every line of communication, and the second is listening. Employees, they need to feel heard. They would like to contribute ideas to your blank slate, ask questions, connect to key pieces. At Axonify, our listening comes in the form of anonymous Ask Me Anything, AMAs, one-on-ones with leaders, informal coffee chats with Carol Lehman and other executives, and formal feedback gathering. We've sent out 5 surveys in the past 6 months so that Axonifiers could provide structured feedback for us to action. The other piece of listening is also watching. Watching for participation, enrollment numbers, attitude and interaction, behavior changes. Is there a pulse change within your team? So during a pandemic, the frontline is juggling so much more. The more we can tune in, the better to offer the right solutions. Data is so important, so please use data to support decision-making related to people matters and to help you understand the current state of your workforce. People and culture can't be everywhere as much as we love to, and that's where upskilling and enabling your leaders comes in. Principle number 5, enable your leaders to tune in. Engagement and leadership are inextricably linked. So it's important to help your leaders understand their role in driving a high-performance culture rather than having it relegated as HR function. Give your leaders timely refreshers and training to equip them to support you with all the above. For example, how to watch for signs of mental health, how to listen for and action feedback from employees, how to avoid video fatigue, how to feel confident answering questions about newly developed safety procedures. We were able to leverage content as well as have bi-weekly leader connects to provide relevant training, whether it be about new policies or reminders. All leaders, including our executives, joined these to ensure that we all had the same information and could share ideas with one another. Our last principle encouraged development. Even during a pandemic, you may want to consider some employees are ready to focus on their development. And there are a lot of different ways for the businesses to encourage professional development. So again, please focus on what will make sense for your organization. Offer a professional development stipend, a formal mentorship program, provide PTO specifically for time off related to learning and development, use content available on the Exonify platform, or reimburse employees for tuition costs. So development is an important engagement element, and recognizing that some employees may be ready for this at their particular stage in their career or life. To wrap up, I'd like to summarize by when considering to build your own engagement practices, understand the problem that you're looking to solve. What is happening within your workforce? What is the data telling you? Use surveys to collect information from your employees on how to improve or resolve the issues. And when you do have that, then communication is key in terms of sharing what you've learned and how you plan to resolve. With the surveys that we sent out in the past 6 months, we followed up with communication that said, we've heard this and this is how we are going to action. So it just brings transparency to the organization as to the collective feedback that we've shared, what we've heard. And finally, experiment with solutions. This is really your opportunity to be creative and to build programs that make sense for your organization. I'd also like to highlight, so while we've heard things that we've done here at Exonify, we also know our customers were creative in their engagement practices during this period of time. And I'd love to highlight a few that we've heard about. Our first is Eden Housing. They used our platform, specifically the broadcast message, to connect and update frequently with their employees. So for them, communication was very important. And they are using the tool to send out well-being surveys. And they also were creative in the use of celebrity videos. So as a result of these engagement practices, they saw a 98% participation rate in the platform. Briscoe Group, they needed to connect with thousands of employees, and they use Exonify as a primary vehicle to connect with their employees. They sent out daily messages to ensure their employees felt connected and informed, and some of their messages focused on how they will be paid, so taking that back to the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the very first level. They also highlighted the well-being and employee support programs that they had, and they also highlighted ways they were supporting their communities. Their leaders used video and sent out video updates as well. So really a key communication factors to help support engagement within their organization. And finally, I'd like to highlight Foot Locker. So Foot Locker needed the ability to communicate with every employee even when they were not in the stores. And they used the platform which they've named Lace Up. And a really neat engagement offering that they did was Get to Know Your Leader series, where they had 8 leaders over video answering fun questions like favorite foods, what sneaker they are wearing, and what superhero they would be. And then they would release these one at a time over several weeks to keep morale and interest high. So these are just a couple of highlights that we heard about, and I'm happy to share with you today. So thank you so much for your time. I hope that you've have some ideas that were created and to bring some ways that you can use to your organization. So we do have some time for questions. Myself and as well members of customer success team are here to address customer-specific questions, but myself to address engagement in general. So I will pause and see what questions come up.